Ayo, it's Retro. Welcome to another video. Y'all, it's been quite some time since I did a Batman video. And I wanted to take some time because I didn't want to just do a lot of Batman videos. Granted, look at my channel. I've done a lot of Superman videos. So I said, fuck it, bro. There have been a lot of Batman comics that I wanted to talk about. One of them, I have a review, Absolute Batman #1. That was literally my second or third video on this channel, and I wanted to talk about it again. So today we are talking about Absolute Batman The Zoo, the very first story arc by Scott Snyder, Nick Dragotta, Frank Martin, and Clayton Cowles. If you haven't watched my review on Absolute Batman #1, go check it out. It was a really good, issue. I had a lot of fun making that video. But this one, I'm talking about the entire story arc, issues 1 through 6, which just ended last week. Absolute Batman is a complete reimagining of the Batman mythos, and not in the sense where they are taking things and changing them irreversibly. That's not necessarily like what this is to me. I feel like Absolute Batman is taking the very core, the very essence of Batman and reimagining it for the modern day. Honestly, Scott Snyder is not new to Batman, of course. He's written Batman for many issues. He first reimagined Batman for the New 52. This was a complete reboot. He then had Dark Knight's Metal, which was an entire event, a line-wide DC event. Then he also had Death Metal. Then he also had the Batman Who Laughs with Jock. Way before that, even before New 52, he had Batman Black Mirror, which saw Dick Grayson as Batman solving murderers. Scott Snyder's no rookie when it comes to Batman. He understands Batman. He's one of the best Batman writers ever. And going back to New 52, when he first reinvented the character for the modern day, for the time of New 52, it was taking the very essence of Batman loving Gotham so much and being billionaire and trying to ensure that he makes Gotham work. He wants to make sure that he helps Gotham with everything at his disposal. You look at Batman over the years, since Frank Miller has reinvented the character, since Frank Miller has really completely changed the image of Batman and turned him into this pulp detective that is now one of the most popular superheroes ever. Back then, hard to imagine, but back then, like, he really wasn't. But now you see there's been always this argument surrounding the fact that whether or not a billionaire should be able to fight crime and, be this caped crusader who is beating down on the mentally ill, basically, because all of Batman's rogues are psychos. And honestly, anyone with like any sort of nuance to the conversation, they understand like how this whole conversation actually goes. Like, it's not that hard to really understand why Batman is the way he is. Absolute Batman takes that and flips it on its head completely. Bruce Wayne is not a rich billionaire. He doesn't come from money. He doesn't come from wealth. He doesn't have a manor. He doesn't have Wayne Enterprise. He doesn't have anything. His mom is a social worker. His dad is a teacher. And he himself is an engineer. They're not broke. They necessarily didn't grow up the best, but it reimagines Batman to being a working class citizen. And you wonder sometimes, is this enough? Is Absolute Batman, is this reinvention of the character, is it enough? I certainly thought that. I was thinking that myself. I've been keeping up with Absolute Batman since the first issue, and I loved issue 1. I loved issue 2. Issue 3, I was like, okay, this feels like more of the same. Issue 4 was a great, year 1. It was basically, Scott Snyder and Gabrielle Walter, who was the guest artist, kind of showing how this Bruce Wayne actually became Batman for the first time and where he went, where his mind was going with creating the image of Batman, where he even got the inspiration from. Issue 5 was still like really good. And then issue 6, I was like, okay, this is like an amazing issue. I was always going to make a review about this. I was always going to make a video talking about this series as a whole. So I went back and I reread the entire series, and I have to say, month to month, I was sleeping on this comic. Is it the best written comic? No, I don't think so. When it comes to like 4 creators, and I say 4 because it's Scott Snyder, Nick Dragotta, Frank Martin, and Clayton Cowles coming together to create this thing. When I view this as a product, as a craft, as comics being a craft, it is completely different. There is no comic book out there that is like Absolute Batman whatsoever. And I love Batman as a character. Batman is one of my favorite heroes ever, but I mean this genuinely as someone who has viewed comics in a different light and has changed the way they viewed comics. Absolute Batman this is what I mean when I say it is a perfect marriage between art, writing, and in this case, coloring and lettering. All of these are very important components to bring a comic book together. And a lot of comics, you know, they have like great writing, they have great story, they have a great artist, they have great colorists. But there's a difference when all of these components are working together in unison, and that's how Absolute Batman genuinely feels. So what is Absolute Batman Volume 1, The Zoo, really about? It's about Black Mask and his party animals taking over Gotham and what Batman and Alfred are going to do about it. Now, like I did say, I made a video on the first issue. You can watch it. I have it linked above. There, like I did talk about the story in a way, and I did talk about how different and all like the differences in this version of Batman. And I even talked about how this universe is different in there as well. And in this universe, Black Mask is Roman Sionis. He is in charge of this network of criminals who are going city to city, country to country, and kind of dismantling them and causing anarchy everywhere. He comes to Gotham, and he really does come to the wrong city, because at this point we open up Alfred is actually the narrator. And I really like this aspect because it reminds me of Batman Year One by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli, where Jim Gordon is primarily the main character. Like, yes, it is a Batman story. However, I'm gonna be real, most of it is told by Jim Gordon, and it's his perspective about what's going on. And it's this perspective of this third party who is coming to Gotham and kind of seeing it from their lens, kind of seeing it from their perspective. In Year One, it was Jim Gordon, who came from a different city, coming here, and he wanted to be a cop in Gotham City, and he wanted to change it through that. Alfred is different. He is a secret agent. He is, you know, he has an employer who was telling him to come to Gotham and see what's going on with the Black Mask and stop the Black Mask, or at least like come to some deal with the Black Mask so that he can stop like going from country to country, because at that point it's an international disaster. In comes Batman, who is in this case like the third party that is messing up with Alfred's plans. Alfred wants to leave Gotham. He's been to Gotham before. He used to live in Gotham, but he hates it. But Batman, Bruce Wayne, he makes Alfred like Gotham. He comes to think that Gotham is actually in a good place. But before I get into that, I'm gonna just say spoilers. If you have not read issues 1 through 6 of Absolute Batman, 1, what are you doing with your life? And 2, go read it. 3, we're gonna get into spoilers. I'm gonna start talking about like the actual nitty-gritty of what goes on. So yeah, like, subscribe, and let's just get into it, okay? Now, one of the big things that is a huge component about this is Batman's anger. You know, Batman's origin is not that different, I will say. The biggest difference is that he's not rich, of course. Instead of both of his parents dying, his father died. And it's one of those things where they really emphasize how important Bruce Wayne's father was to him. You see in issue number 4 where, like I said, it was Absolute Batman Year One. But you see in that issue where Bruce Wayne is building this science project, and we see multiple days of him working on it, and Thomas Wayne comes in and he's checking in on his son, seeing what's going on, and Bruce is telling him about what he's doing and kind of like his plans. And he's building this collapsible bridge. He wants to build this collapsible bridge that can help, you know, cities in need during a disaster, and that's part of the science project. He's a little kid. The science project was to create something that would help people in need during a natural disaster, and Bruce Wayne thought of an idea to build a bridge so that if there is water, they can go across it. If there's any sort of like issues, they'll be able to go across and get to where they need to be going. And at first, his idea was to make it intimidating, make it like scary, so that anyone that saw it wouldn't be able to like mess with it or something like that. It was a very interesting idea from his part. It was kind of a nice way to tie in like Bruce's original like idea of making Batman an intimidating figure. But Thomas Wayne kind of interjected and was like, it's a good idea, but what about the people inside? Would they feel safe? Wouldn't they actually feel scared? And Bruce Wayne kind of thought on it, sat on it, and ended up changing the idea completely. Eventually we get to a point where he makes this bridge that kind of looks like a bat, and you can completely like collapse in it and expand it to where when you expand it, it looks like a bat, you know, unfolded. It's one of those things where it's like, it's kind of a hint towards how Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta kind of lean into the fantastical nature of Batman. This bridge is ridiculous. It looks ridiculous. It looks like a bat. It looks like a friggin' bat. It has like even chains. It has even like a gear saw at the tip, so that if anybody you know, if they needed to use it to like, you know, break anything, they could use it. It was one of those things where like the bridge was supposed to be pliable and light and completely malleable so that the people can use it. And it's one of those things where it's like, this sounds like a completely ridiculous idea on the surface, but it's probably like very practical, and it does make a lot of sense. He leans to the fact that bats are the most adaptable mammals in the world. The fact that there is a mammal that literally wanted to fly and did. This is just laying the foundation really for how Bruce Wayne operates. I really liked Absolute Batman issue 4 because it's one of those issues where you could tell it's kind of an intermission, but it really does bring everything together. You do see the way that Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta are trying to shape this Batman. They want this character to be as fantastical as Batman is supposed to be, as he always really has been. He is grounded to a certain extent, but he's only so grounded in the fact that he himself is you know, a human being. But you know, they made this Bruce Wayne like larger than life. He's 6'6". He's 300 pounds. He is a fucking unit. His Batmobile is a tank with the Batmobile inside of it. Like, this Batman is ridiculous. It's actually like, it's taking this idea of Batman and really pushing the boundaries of what Batman can look and feel like as a myth, as a character. There are a lot of small differences here and there. One of the ones that I noticed on my reread is Batman's quietness is a lot different. Now, if you all know Batman, obviously, like he is dark and brooding, and he's pretty quiet a lot of times, kind of always thinking about his next move. But I'm gonna be honest, like a lot of it I feel like feels like patience. This Batman, you could tell his quietness isn't really out of patience, it's actually out of his impatience, his anger. There are a lot of moments where he's talking to Alfred, or really Alfred's talking to him, and you can tell that like he winces, or he is just like ready to just kind of stop talking. He doesn't really want Alfred talking to him. It's one of those things where it's like you're flipping this character on its head. Now, this Bruce Wayne is incredibly intelligent. He is very intelligent. His education background is about the same as Earth Prime Batman. It's not that different. He studied criminology, physiology, all that kind of stuff. He studied everything. But one of the things that I feel is different is before becoming Batman, Bruce Wayne learned the ins and outs of Gotham. I think when, you know, Bruce Wayne in Earth Prime, he kind of he figured it out on the go. He figured out the layout of Gotham on the go as he was Batman, as he was learning to become Batman. And with all the resources he has, he was just able to hack into everything and figure it out. Absolute Bruce Wayne worked in several different places in Gotham. He worked in sanitation, he worked in engineering, he worked in construction, he worked in town hall, he worked in like all these different areas of Gotham to really understand like every single section of Gotham, and it allows him to really know the lay of the land. He has caves everywhere under Gotham, and it allows him to have this like completely adaptable like approach to crime fighting. If one cave is compromised, he goes to the next. If Alfred finds where he's hiding in one oligarchy's tower, he has another one set up that with everything in there. It's fascinating. Like, it shows how resourceful this Batman is without any resources. It kind of shows like how many steps ahead he is and how much he plans really as well. This Bruce Wayne is just like very fascinating. I really like what Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta are doing. I think it is taking all of the interesting parts about Batman, and look, Batman being a billionaire, rich boy, playboy that is trying to help Gotham has never been a bad thing. Like, yes, he fights crime, but so does every other superhero. So does every other, you know, comic book hero. You know, there is no problem with Tony Stark really fighting crime, but Bruce Wayne, there is. It's a double standard. You know, I don't know why, but I think one of the things that that's misunderstood about Batman is that he thinks that he is like this high and mighty character. He doesn't. It's more so the fact that he is viewed as that by other people, but really Batman completely understands how flawed of a person he is, and that's why his mission is more important than himself, really. Like, I've always viewed Batman's end goal is dying. He's going to die in a fight, not necessarily with a happy ending. But enough about Batman, enough about Earth Prime Batman, that is. More about Absolute Batman. It's one of those things where it's like a lot of these differences are to the character's benefit. Another one is, like I said earlier, is the fact that he's not rich, but what he does is he takes from the rich and to use it towards his crusade. Like I said earlier, Alfred found one of his towers that he kind of like operates in, that is kind of like his bat cave. It basically said that Bruce Wayne because he works as a construction worker, he knows all of these towers that are bought by oligarchs are not being used. The top levels aren't being used, so he just uses them. This is where he operates all of these towers underground as well. Like, he has places and he has contingencies on top of contingencies and really below contingencies as well. He has all of these different plans set up just in case. I talked a lot about Alfred and his inclusion, relating it to Jim Gordon's role really in Batman Year One, and it is fairly the same, except Alfred and Bruce Wayne's dynamic is a lot different. Of course, in Earth Prime, Alfred is like a second father to Bruce Wayne and really raises him and tries his best to guide him into the right path. This Alfred is, like I said, he's an agent, so he has no ties to Bruce Wayne whatsoever. And it's taking that, you know, idea that Alfred Pennyworth used to be an agent in Earth Prime and then became a butler. In this case, he stayed an agent, and you know, it's one of those things where it's like he slowly comes around to wanting to help Gotham. At first, he just wanted to stop Black Mask and the party animals at whatever cost, but now it's more so he wants to stop them, and also he wants to help Gotham as well. He got to a point where Batman like turned him. Batman really inspired him to view Gotham as more than just a shithole. He views it more as a city that needs saving, really. And I love that. I love that part. And it's also one of those things where, as you know, as an agent, Alfred has seen war plenty of times, and his description of Batman is so interesting. He constantly talks about the fact that like he's waiting for Batman to retreat, that in a battlefield, in war, you take one long advance and then you retreat and regroup. You take one long advance, retreat, regroup, and repeat the cycle. That's what he was saying. And every single time he sees Batman operate, he's waiting for the time that Batman is going to retreat and regroup. And he never sees that happen. Instead, he sees that, and he notates it as like AF as advance forward and RR as retreat and regroup. And he said he comes to a point where he's like, it's ridiculous because Batman is advance forward. He is Batman AF, Batman as fuck. And it's like, it comes to this awesome fucking moment in the book where it's just, this is Batman at its very core. Batman doesn't really regroup. He doesn't retreat. He's going to stop the crime as best as he can. Every single moment that he is, you know, solving a crime or stopping a bad guy, it's always just advancing. He never really stops and says he needs to lick his wounds or anything, unless he like literally has to, unless he is on his deathbed damn near. But he never himself is retreating and regrouping, and I love that description. It's one of those things where it's like, it's universal. You can use that for this Batman. You can use that for Earth Prime Batman. This book is really just like a fantastic Batman story. Like, at its very core, it is a Batman story. And I think that if you never read Batman, I'm not saying that you should read this, because like I said, there are a lot of differences and you may come away with it with a different view of the character. But I think that if you haven't read Batman stories in a long time, this is definitely the one to go to. It's just one of those things where it's like you have a writer in Scott Snyder who is the only writer since Frank Miller, or really outside of Frank Miller, who has reinvented Batman twice. Frank Miller did it in Batman Year One, and then again with Dark Knight Returns. And you know, you don't see that. Those are not even that many years apart. But then you have Scott Snyder, who has this long career with Batman. You have Black Mirror, you have New 52, you have Batman Eternal, you have all these Batman stories, Dark Knight's Metal, the Batman Who Laughs. And he comes back after years, after really, like, he took a break from DC and he came back, and this feels like a really mature take, I guess. Like, it feels like Scott Snyder took a break and was able to reach back into his creativity and reinvent the character again. And it's not in a way that necessarily like destroys the very essence of Batman. One of the things that I kind of don't, not that I don't like, but I don't prefer a very grounded Batman. Some of them work, like, you know, Matt Reeves's Batman film. That's an amazing grounded take on the character. And also like The Dark Knight with Christopher Nolan. Those like grounded takes, there are some in the comics as well. Those like work, but it's one of those things where it's like, Scott Snyder never took that approach. He is a comic book writer, not in the sense that he's not well read. You can tell that Scott Snyder is a very well educated writer in his writing. You can tell that, and he puts it at the forefront of really this series. When Absolute Batman was first announced, I thought it was going to be exceptional just because of Nick Dragotta and Frank Martin on the art. And I had a feeling like Scott Snyder's writing was going to be good. Like he's a very good writer. He's a great writer. But I wasn't really too ecstatic. I was actually wanting a younger writer to take on the title. But honestly, like I'm glad he did take the reins, because it allows Scott Snyder to kind of reintroduce himself as a Batman writer. And this is perfect. Like, this Batman is mythical. He's fantastical. Again, he's 6'6". He's 300 pounds. He is a fucking unit. Everything about this Batman makes absolutely no fucking sense. It's comical. There's a part in Absolute Batman #6 where he takes this tiny ass little villain and drop kicks him. Like, it's a comic book through and through. But it's also like, this is like amazing craft. This is crafted so amazingly. This is Scott Snyder's writing working at a very high level, probably the highest it's been since his New 52 run, especially since 0 Year. Like, you know, he is just, you can tell he is a lover of Frank Miller, but not in the sense where it's shown only as reverence. No, this is Scott Snyder taking Frank Miller's like inspiration and making it his own. Every single aspect of Batman, making him bigger, interrogating the argument of if being a billionaire Cape Crusader is a bad thing, is being fascist. Let's interrogate another idea. What about if he was a working class citizen and wanted to save people? You know, that would look a lot different, and really it does. And I have to give like a huge, like I've said it time and time again, but I have to give a huge shout out to Nick Dragotta and Frank Martin on art. These two are some of the best artists in comics right now. East of West by Jonathan Hickman and Nick Dragotta showed it. This is showing it even more. Like, Nick Dragotta and Frank Martin, they were already an amazing artist and colorist duo, but this shows it so fucking well. Like everything about it, everything about the art is just amazing. And you can see the Frank Miller inspiration as well. You see like how Nick Dragotta tries to fit in so many panels into a page, and it doesn't feel cluttered. It feels like he's showing every little bit of action that you can fit into the page, and it flows so fluidly. Frank Martin's colors is just like next level. Like, there aren't many colorists out there that are better than him, and it's just phenomenal. There is a page that homages Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. This gotta be one of the best comic splash pages that have come out in like the last like few years. Even the title cards, every single issue there's a title card, except for issue 4, because again, it wasn't drawn by Nick Dragotta, it was drawn by Gabriel Walter. But issue 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, they all have like these title cards that showcases kind of what the issue is going to be about, or like what the main through line is. You can tell Nick Dragotta had so much fun because they're gorgeous. They are gorgeous title cards, and man, blessed. Like, as a Batman fan, like very lucky to have this team writing this book. I love Absolute Batman. It is a tremendous book. There is not many comic books out there that feel like this. There are a lot of amazing comics. There are comics that are written better than this. I would say there is, you know, The Ultimates by Dennis Camp and Juan Frigeri. There is New Gods by Ram V, and not too much on New Gods. I think that is another comic that feels like a perfect marriage between artistry and literature. But The Ultimates is one of those where it's like, it's a fantastic book. No hate at all to the people that are working on it, but it does feel like something is missing from the art, and I feel like it needed a more exceptional artist. Overall, I feel like the Absolute Universe as a whole it's been this marriage between artistry and literature so much more than I feel like the new Ultimate Universe in Marvel has. They've just been picking so many incredible artists for this line, and it's insane. You have Nick Dragotta on Batman, Hayden Sherman on Absolute Wonder Woman. I will say Rafa Sandoval is a step down. I wish Raphael Albuquerque was on Absolute Superman, but again, like I've said in my retro roundup, I'll have that linked right here. It's still really good. And then you also have which at the time of this recording, literally I just read Absolute Martian Manhunter today, and that's another one where it's extremely well crafted comic book, writing and artistry just coming together just beautifully. If you want your first alternate universe book to look and be amazing, Absolute Batman is the one. You know, if this is just the start, I cannot wait to see what comes next. You have Absolute Mr. Freeze coming very soon with Marcos Martin on art, and that's just, they got the best artists ever to draw Absolute Batman, which, you know, good on DC. They know who to get on these like big titles, and I'm looking forward to the future of Absolute Batman. If you saw my roundup, you would say, you will notice that I wasn't as ecstatic about this book, but I reread it since then and I love it. I love it so much. It is genuinely, like, outside of New Gods, outside of Ultimates, and now outside of like Absolute Martian Manhunter, of all the books that are coming out that I'm reading, those are the only that stand in the same like stratosphere as Absolute Batman. But none of them outside of New Gods have the same like marriage between artistry and literature. Absolute Batman AF. Amazing work, y'all. That has been my review on Absolute Batman the Zoo. Like, subscribe, let me know in the comment section below what y'all thought of this first arc of Absolute Batman, if you're even reading it, and if you're not, let me know why you're not. I will be talking about more Absolute titles. I will have reviews about their first arcs as well. That'll be coming as they finish. But yeah, I'll catch y'all on the next video. Peace.